It's a jam-packed show this week as we cover Week 12's cash lineup on both DraftKings and FanDuel, and we'll get you ready for Week 13 with a full cash and GPP lineup on FanDuel, plus our top DraftKings picks for the week. All of that coming up next. Hello, everyone. I'm Eric Lee with the Fantasy Football Consultants. I hope everybody tunes into the entire show. Trust me, it will be worth it. But in case you want to skip to certain sections of the video, we will timestamp our major sections of this video in the description section so you can check that out. First thing we need to deal with is talk about Week 12's cash lineup on DraftKings. It was family week last week where Gary Kurtzman and Michael Kurtzman put in a cash lineup, and boy, did it rock. They scored 180 points. Out of 62 competitors, they finished second in their double-up contest. So congratulations to Gary and Michael. Not to be outdone, on FanDuel, Michael Wiley and myself put a cash lineup together, and it did just as well, if not better, scoring 170 points. Out of 100 competitors in that 50-50, we finished third. One thing I have to say to Tyreek Hill, thank you very much for being such a stud. All right. Also last week, we had our practice contest for our FFC contest. Congratulations to Brad Fowler, who beat me out. He finished first. I finished second out of the 12 people who signed up. Now it starts for real. Week 13 and Week 14 on FanDuel, if you've qualified. How do you know if you qualified? Go to the description section and see if you're listed. If you don't get in the contest this week and you are a qualifier, next week, Week 14, I'll bring in a new person in so we have it full for that week. What new people will I bring in? Whoever puts the best comments in this comment section. What am I looking for? I'm looking for either a great suggestion on FanDuel for who is going to do well based on their price. Give us the reasons why and give us your FanDuel username. All right. Before we get to the DraftKings picks, let's go to the studio and take a look at FanDuel cash and GPP lineups. All right, as we build our cash lineup, remember the days we always used to start with, well, should we start Christian McCaffrey or not? Is he worth it? Well, now that question becomes, do we want to start Dalvin Cook or not? And you go, whoa, that's $10,500. Well, believe it or not, that's a $500 discount off last week. And folks, I think he's in a better matchup this week. He's at home. He is favored by a whopping 9.5 points against the Jacksonville Jaguars, who have proven they can't stop anybody. They've given up almost 30 points a game this year, and they've been bad against the run. They've been bad against the pass. And of course, Dalvin Cook does both. So what's been so impressive about Dalvin Cook is how involved he gets in the game. He has averaged over the last 7 weeks 28 touches. I didn't misspeak there. 28 touches. That's a lot of touches for a massage therapist. I mean, come on, folks. And you get this involvement in a game in which he has an implied total of 30.5, gets involved in the passing game, gets all the goal line carries. Everything about this matchup is just about perfect. So we're going to take full advantage. And even at $10,500, we're going to put Dalvin Cook in our lineup. Don't worry about the fact that he is questionable. Obviously, we'll monitor it, but I think he'll be just fine. All right. The next running back that I am going to talk about, I don't understand what FanDuel is doing with him. The guy is back and healthy at $7,000 price. Austin Eckler.
I tell you, I don't get no respect at all.
Did FanDuel just forget who Austin Eckler was? Granted, I know he's been out for a while, right? Missed a bunch of games, but he came back last week, and you figure that would be the week where they would like ease him in. Maybe he wouldn't get a full workload. All he did was get 25 touches. Now, they got behind really early, and do I expect him to get 16 targets every week? Absolutely not. But I do expect this LA Charger offense does move the ball with Justin Herbert. And he obviously is comfortable checking down to a healthy Austin Eckler. The guy is active around the goal line. I just don't understand this $7,000 price. Even though FanDuel is actually, it was a $60,000 total salary to DraftKings $50,000. He's cheaper on FanDuel than he is on DraftKings. So someone explained to me what FanDuel is doing. Actually, I don't need an explanation. I'm just going to take advantage of it and get Austin Eckler in my lineup. So, man, I feel like I have already started a lineup that with two running backs that are going to get a ton of touches, which is what we want. Let's switch to wide receiver. We have to be a little bit cognizant here because we did spend a decent amount of money, mostly Dalvin Cook's fault. And so when we go to wide receiver, I'm not going to be able to pick one of the top guys price range wise, but I'm going to pick a guy who I'm extremely high on this week. And that is at only $6,500, Brandon Cooks. Before I talk about Brandon Cooks, we need to talk about what's going on in Houston. So need I remind you of something? But the Houston Texans cannot run the ball. They are second to last in the NFL at rushing yards. And oh, by the way, their starter, David Johnson, is still out. So you go, but they have Duke Johnson. Do you realize how weak Duke Johnson has been on the ground? The most rushing yards he's gotten this year is 54. So you're telling me, so what's clear is Houston is not going to be able to run the ball. That's just not their focus. Yet they're playing a game here where they have a over-under of 51 points. So you must say they're going to pass the ball. Who are they going to pass the ball to, folks? Not Will Fuller. He's been suspended to taking a drug he said was assigned to him by a doctor. Regardless, he's suspended. He's not playing. It's not going to be Randall Cobb. He is on IR. So what does all that mean? What that means is it's going to be a Brandon Cook show. And we have the money to spend for him. Now, I'm actually also high on Kiki Qt at $4,800. If you need the $1,700 savings, I'm okay with that. But if you can afford Brandon Cooks, I prefer that, and we can afford him. So he's in our lineup. You like the consistency in his performance, and given all the other weapons and giving the matchup here in a high-scoring affair, Brandon Cooks really like that. The other guy in the $6,000 range, which I want to talk about, is Jarvis Landry. So I know what you're going to say. Eric, he plays on Cleveland. And the last time I checked, all Cleveland does is run the ball. That's true. That's what they like to do. They like to run the ball. But they're playing a Tennessee Titan team that does better against the run than the pass. And by the way, they're 5.5-point dogs. Look, I think Tennessee's, who's at home, is simply the better team. Game script wise, I think the Cleveland Browns are going to be forced to pass. And guess what? When they pass, the guy they're going to be looking to is Jarvis Landry. Don't forget, Odell Beckham Jr. is out for the year. By far, their number one targeted wide receiver with Beckham out is Jarvis Landry. Now, don't be deterred by a couple of these low games where he didn't do much. Those games featured heavy wind, and they simply were not throwing the ball much in those games. So I think this game in Tennessee, I don't believe wind is a factor at all. I'm feeling very comfortable in what should be a high-scoring affair in which the Browns are going to have to pass to keep up. Jarvis Landry is a bargain at $6,000. The last guy in the $6,000 range is a guy who we started last week, and he burned us. But I still feel good about him. That's Cooper Kupp. He's someone who is a very key component of this Ram offense, even though he only scored two receptions. That was the lowest receptions all year. He's a guy that normally gets consistently high targets. And I like the matchup here going against the up-tempo Arizona Cardinals, who, by the way, have a cut shutdown corner in Patrick Peterson, who will almost surely be on Robert Woods. So that should give Cooper Kupp room to roam. So let's hope our Kupp runneth over. So here we go with Cooper Kupp. So I'm just noticing as I look at this lineup that we've got Dalvin Cook and Brandon Cooks. So I'm expecting this lineup to really cook. So I guess at tight end, I'm going to might as well make it a trifecta and Jared Cook. No, I'm not doing that. I am not doing that. Let's get her out of that. I don't feel comfortable with any of the real passing options on New Orleans right now, given their prices, with the switch to Taysom Hill. But who am I going to go at tight end? Well, I am going to go at tight end. I'm going to talk about what I discussed before about what's going on in Houston. As a refresher, I said Houston can't run the ball. They're going to have to pass. They're in a game that's expected to have a lot of points, and a bunch of their passing options are, in fact, out. So the guy that I'm looking at is Jordan Atkins, who is at a very reasonable $5,200. I think he is going to be in more passing down situations. They may even opt to put him in the slot since they basically run out of wide receivers. Either way, at only $5,200, playing at home, playing in a game that a lot of points are going to be scored, I think he's too cheap, folks. So there we go. We're going to save some money with Jordan Atkins. All right. Let's go back to quarterback. At $7,800, I am fine with Ryan Tannehill. The guy doesn't get a whole lot of publicity, but he really does check a lot of the boxes that we say that we want in our NFL DFS Masterclass. We do a free NFL DFS Masterclass on YouTube. I will try to get that linked up above. Let's throw the link up above right now to our NFL DFS Masterclass. All right. It walks you through all of the strategies that you should use in order to pick the right quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, and defense. When we talked about the quarterback, we want a quarterback that is A, at home, B, that is a favorite. Well, check for Ryan Tannehill. We want one with a high implied total. Tennessee is implied total of 30. Double check. And you know what? I said I wanted a quarterback who runs the ball a little bit. Ryan Tannehill is sneakily, you don't think of him as a big running quarterback because he's not, but he's not going to give you a zero with his legs. He's going to run a little bit, and he does have a tendency to run around the goal line, so you can get lucky and get a rushing touchdown. But most importantly, efficiency. Tannehill has always been ever since he's been on Tennessee, one of the more efficient quarterbacks. What do I mean by that? Not only completion percentage, but look how many passing touchdowns he gets relative to the pass attempts that he makes. Those are all things that we like. Let's put in, and at $7,800, we do get a savings over the bigger guys. So feel very, very good about that Ryan Tannehill pick. All right, the last two picks are a flex and a defense, and it looks like we have $10,400 to spend. So we either can pick a topper of the line flex guy and punt, or punt on defense, or get a good value player and pay up on defense. Well, I don't want you biased by this person's name. So what I want you to do is just close your eyes and think about, because in my flex position, I'm going to pick a running back. So go ahead, close your eyes. Do it. All right. This running back is at home. This running back is favored. This running back is a featured back. This running back absolutely gets involved in the passing game. And this running back is someone who gets goal line carries. And for the last wonderful thing, he plays a defense that is absolutely grade A awful against the run, right? So you probably think, given what I said before, I have chose to punt defenses because I'm going to have to pay up $8,000 or so for this particular defense, a particular flex player. I don't have to pay $8,000. I don't have to pay $7,000. I just have to pay a little over $6,000. And that is David Montgomery at 6,200. Look at that Detroit defense, dead last against running backs. You know, ever since Tariq Cohen got injured, Montgomery has gotten consistent targets. You like the fact that last week they brought in Mitch Trubisky, and Trubisky still targets him out of the backfield. So all the reasons I said before, I won't go over again. Really like David Montgomery this week. That leaves me $4,200. So normally I'm going bargain basement guys, defenses. Who am I going to scrounge up, right? Am I going to go with Jacksonville or the Jets? Well, quite frankly, I don't like any of the real cheap defenses. You got to get up to the Giants, $3,400 for, a defense. If you want to go cheap, I kind of like them as a Seahawk fan. The Seattle defense is not, offensive line is not that great. And the Giants actually have a pretty good defense. So for $3,400, but I don't need to go that cheap. I instead am going to pay up at $4,100 the Green Bay Packers. Boy, do I think the Green Bay Packers are in a great situation this week. They're at home. They are a 9-point favorite over the Philadelphia Eagles. This Philadelphia Eagles team is majorly struggling. Carson Wentz is playing terribly. Their offensive line is having all kind of woes. They gave up, this is the Eagles, 6 sacks to the Seattle Seahawks. Yeah, the Seattle Seahawks, the team that can't put pressure on anybody, somehow figured out a way to get 6 sacks. But it's not just that week. No team has given up more sacks in the last 3 weeks than the Philadelphia Eagles. Guess what? No one has given up more sacks all season than the Philadelphia Eagles. And game script wise, with Green Bay having all of their weapons healthy, to Rodgers and Adams and Aaron Jones, and even Alan Lazard is back. I think they're going to roll up the score on Philadelphia. And when Philadelphia gets in a situation where Green Bay knows that they're going to pass, it's going to get ugly. So not for us, for Philadelphia, we're going to just kick back and enjoy it. So there's the Green Bay Packers. So my cash lineup: Ryan Tannehill, Dalvin Cook, Austin Eckler, Brandon Cooks, Jarvis Landry, Cooper Kupp, Jordan Atkins, David Montgomery, and the Green Bay defense. As always, we're going to monitor this for late breaking news to the extent value opens up. All right, everybody, you are checking out my GPP lineup. Always you're looking for GPP is correlation, because in order to get any payout, you got to finish at least in around the top 22, 23%. But to get any real payout, you really need an offense to go off. So you don't want to try to be right with every pick. If there's a pick that you are right with, does it make it more likely you'll be right with another pick? That's where correlation comes into play. And this lineup has plenty of correlation. So I wanted to attack one of the high-scoring games. And the game I'm attacking is the Indianapolis Colts and the Houston Texans. Indianapolis has given up a lot of points lately, and Houston has been scoring a lot of points lately. And as I've talked about, the decision tree on Houston is really truncated. There's not a whole lot of options. Again, they're not effectively running the ball. So I expect Deshaun Watson to throw the ball, and he will throw it to, guess what? Either Keke Coutee or Brandon Cooks. So I got both of them in the lineup. What I like about this stack, yeah, I had to pay a little bit for Deshaun Watson, but I paid peanuts for the two wide receivers and the go back guy, because if those three guys are going to have a big game, then that means the Colts are probably going to have to throw the ball a lot themselves. So going back the other way, I'm using Michael Pittman. He's the same price as T.Y. Hilton. If you like T.Y. Hilton more, then you can easily swap him out for T.Y. Hilton. But I feel a little bit more comfortable with Michael Pittman, and I certainly like Michael Pittman's ceiling more, which is what I'm looking for at GPP. So where do we go from there? I'm not going to talk too much about the two running backs because it's the same two running backs I already talked about in the cash game. But I'm going with Hayden Hurst at tight end. I'm shocked that DraftKings only has him at $5,600. By the way, don't worry about Hayden Hurst. He's a questionable tag. He was limited in practice, but it appears, barring any setback, that he should start this week. It's something we'll monitor, but I like to attack New Orleans in the air. They do a better job against the rush than in the air, and we avoid Marshawn Lattimore. So I like this pick with Hayden Hurst, who has been really very consistent this year for a tight end, right? Getting consistent touches. Didn't with New Orleans the last time they played New Orleans, but I think he'll turn it around this week. 8, 8, 7, 7, 4, 6, 6. We like that. All right. And with Julio Jones hobbled, not sure if he's going to play. Will he be at a diminished status? All the reasons why I like Hayden Hurst's ceiling this week. Speaking of ceiling, love A.J. Brown. I talked about it already with Ryan Tannehill. We're going to attack Cleveland in the air. Of course, Derrick Henry is going to be a part of it. But I think the big play potential of A.J. Brown, I think, will be on display this week. Well worth the $8,200 we had to pay up to get him. But we love his air yards. And when he goes off, he often really goes off. And the last thing I did was I did correlation between Dalvin Cook and the Minnesota Vikings. So you pair a running back in their own defense has a correlation, because if you think that Minnesota is going to dominate this game, and by the way, you won't be alone. Not only do I think it, the lines makers think it. They're 9.5-point favorites. That's our GPP lineup. Watson, Montgomery, Cook, Coutee, Cooks, Pittman, Hurst, Brown, and the Minnesota Vikings. All right, let's switch over and talk DraftKings. Okay, a week ago, I mentioned to all of you that we were not going to cover DraftKings anymore. And we got many people, Matt Garrett and several others, that said in the comment section, hey, we missed that. We really like your content on DraftKings. So as a compromise, I'm not going to do a full lineup, but I'm going to give you my picks at each of the major positions: quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end. You guys are on your own on defense. So at quarterback on DraftKings, I like the two Ryans, Tannehill already discussed, and Ryan Fitzpatrick. The stars behind his name is assuming that Ryan Fitzpatrick actually is playing. The Dolphins have an interesting quandary. They have to decide, do they care about this year or do they care about the future? Because unquestionably, if it was about this year, Ryan Fitzpatrick gives them the best chance to win. They're 7-4. Right now, they would be in the 6th playoff spot. So I really would be shocked if Miami benched Fitzpatrick this week. Other quarterback on the list is Aaron Rodgers at $6,800. Man, has he had a great year. And now he has all his weapons healthy on offense, and he's in a great game script playing at home against Philadelphia. And they're 8-point favorites, implied total 28. I think this is going to be a big week, and I guess I'm following my advice on the NFL DFS Masterclass. All of these quarterbacks are at home.
There's no place like home.
And they're all favored. All right, let's go to running backs. So the running backs that I like this week starts with Dalvin Cook for the same reasons as FanDuel, maybe even more so on DraftKings because of the full PPR and how much he gets involved in the passing game at $9,500. After that, James Robinson. I know what you might say is, hey, Eric, James Robinson is on the road and he's a 9.5-point underdog. Do you really want to start a guy that is a 9.5-point underdog? Well, unless James Robinson gets traded, he always is going to be a big underdog. He's an underdog every week. So that doesn't bother me. Nobody else gets any carries, basically, on Jacksonville. And he does get involved in the passing game. And I think what's unique about this week is Minnesota doesn't have a very good defense. I already talked about Eckler and Montgomery, so the only other player on this list is Devontae Booker. And I've got stars behind him because the question I ask is Josh Jacobs going to play? If Josh Jacobs plays, then I have no interest in Devontae Booker. If Josh Jacobs is out at $5,500 on DraftKings, he is a mandatory start. In my opinion, he's a mandatory start. He'd be the guy on this list that I like the most at running back. Okay, let's turn our attention to wide receivers, and it always starts with Davante Adams. This guy has been absolutely amazing this year. If you have the $9,000, why not? Number one thing we want in a wide receiver, of course, is targets. He has 11 targets a game per game. That, on a per-game basis, is basically tied with Keenan Allen for the most targets for wide receivers in all of football. And then when it comes to red zone targets, even though he's missed 2 games this year, his 22 red zone targets are by far more than anyone else. He already talked about Cooper Kupp and Brandon Cooks. Corey Davis is a real bargain at $5,100, which is important for me to go back. If you're doing a GPP lineup, certainly you can do the rather cheap stack, the Houston stack, which I did on my FanDuel lineup. But you also can do Tennessee, I think is really good, where you have a Ryan Tannehill, for example, and you can use A.J. Brown and Corey Davis as the other part of the stack, and you even can run it back on the Cleveland side because Tennessee is playing Cleveland with a Jarvis Landry. I really like that as a starting point for a DraftKings GPP lineup. Alternatively, you can go like I did on FanDuel, Watson with a Cooks and a Kiki Qt, and maybe run it back with Michael Pittman. At tight end, I already talked about Hurst and Adkins, but I want to talk about Robert Tonyan. Love his matchup this week. Great implied total. He's at home with a great implied total of 28. Favorite, that's what you want as a tight end, a home favorite, good implied total. And even though Philadelphia has a good pass defense, they don't do a very good job at all against tight ends, ranking 25th. So at only $3,700, a real bargain on DraftKings, where he's not a bargain like this on FanDuel. I really like that as a sneaky tight end pick. So this is the groundwork for our DraftKings lineup. Here's what my big ask for you guys as a community. Keep this channel strong for DraftKings and FanDuel by entering in the comment section your plays for this week. Tell us who you think on the main slate will be good picks and why. If you see a value opportunity, go ahead and leave it in the comment section. I'm so impressed by you guys. Multiple times last week, I was like, oh, I want to leave a comment and let people know that, hey, this is a value opportunity, and somebody beat me to it. Great job, guys. You guys are really helping make this channel not just be about me talking to you guys, but you guys all collaborating as a community so we can put together the very best cash and GPP lineups on both FanDuel and DraftKings. Thank you again. If you haven't yet, please hit that red subscriber button. I don't say it much, but if you made it this far in the video, not only hit the like button now, but if you can make it a habit of clicking that like button each week when you see my videos, it really helps me in the YouTube analytics. All right, everybody, please be safe, take care, and we'll see you next week.